They're presently 3 for 122. Mark Taylor on 46. Night watchman Merv Hughes on 3. Marsh a duck, Boone 57, aboard a naught. So that's the story of the match so far. It's 3 for 122.
Your attention to judge what the benefit of the press in the interest with that presentation by the promoters immediately after today's track of the stairs.
The umpires have been pretty consistent with the light. You can bet that around about 5:35 they're going to offer it to the batsman. There was never any doubt what Merv Hughes and Mark Taylor would do. They've headed for the pavilion. So Australia still need another 430 for victory. They have 7 wickets in hand, and the main task for them will be to protect those 7 wickets tomorrow. They've got
Marshall to Merv Hughes. And he's handled the in-swingers comparatively comfortably. Out-swingers have been the ones that have given him the difficulty so far.
Merv Hughes started very slowly as a batsman in Test cricket. Took him quite a while to get off the mark, but he's really worked hard on his batting, Merv, and he's become quite a good player of pace bowling. He's had a bit of trouble with it on this tour, but he's played pretty well against pace. Spin tends to bamboozle him a little. But spin is not something that should bother him in Test matches against the West Indies.
In fact, he can count a top score of 72 not out in the final test of the 1988-89 series Adelaide as his highest score in Test cricket, that against the West Indies, and that against an identical attack as faces him here. In fact, the same 11 on the field here, and the same 11 the West Indies have used throughout the series, played in that last test at Adelaide in 88-89. Some thumping pull shots on that occasion. Well, that's the first wicket this morning. The first ambitious slot by Merv Hughes down the leg side, just a touch, and the catch down the leg side for Dujon gets rid of the night watchman.
The man had been placed at backward square leg. Patrick Patterson was moved there, perhaps to indicate to Merv that there was something coming, and just a little bit of deviation there off the bat. Pretty easy decision for umpire Archer to make. So Merv departs. Australia 4 for 122.
New batsman is Dean Jones. He comes in because of the fact that Malcolm Marshall has just taken his 350th Test wicket, that of Merv Hughes.
And that gives him 81 against Australia. And Jeffrey Dujon just politely asking the question there.
The batsman taken.
Didn't get too excited about it. The only team Malcolm has got 100 wickets against. England 107. Australia are next on his hit list with 81.
And the weather is improving now, just clouds beginning to break up, getting a bit brighter. So Jones comes out with a big job ahead of him. Well fielded by Logie, short leg. So that ends the over. Marshall's wicket there of Merv Hughes, 4 for 122. He's dropped it. And it wasn't that difficult a chance, really. Pushed it to the left of Richardson, and he put it down.
Well, Vivi has picked the right spot. He's opted for the silly mid-off rather than the third slip. And that's where it's gone. Taylor hitting his pad as well as the ball.
Second time, in fact, Richardson has put down Taylor. He was 5 yesterday when he was dropped in the third slip position we were talking about earlier, also off Ambrose. Squeezed it through, that'll go for 4. So the first scoring shot of the day, and that's his 50. A boundary through the offside.
Six fours in all for Mark Taylor. And Desmond just diving over the top of that one. Desmond's dive was not well timed.
End of the over, 4 for 126.
Swinging away down the leg side. And good morning to Michael Holding.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning, viewers. And good afternoon to the viewers, the Sky B in England. Malcolm Marshall is certainly getting this ball to move around quite a bit. Hasn't really got a lot of shine on it. Fairly bruised the ball, but he has been taking very good care of one side. Adding a bit of perspiration, getting as much shine as he can on that side.
Dean Jones off the mark. Quite happy to be so. Very important day for Dean Jones and his Australian teammates. Opportunity here with all day to play. Still 425 runs behind. Whilst the runs aren't quite so important, it is important that Mark Taylor and Dean Jones play their normal game as much as possible. With the wicket keeping lower and lower as the game goes on, they need to be aware of getting onto the front foot as much as they can. Courtney Walsh unable to prevent the single there. So the runs are important from the point of view that they can't afford to let the West Indies just charge in and bowl at them all day. It's important that they try and bat as normally as possible. It's a lot easier to concentrate when you're looking to score runs rather than just trying to exist. Mark Taylor, as Tony said, has already had one stroke of luck this morning, being dropped by Richie Richardson in close on the offside. But he knows to put all those things behind him and concentrate on each ball as it comes. Pitching outside leg stump.
Pitching outside leg and just straightening.
Roland Holder there, substituting for Gordon Greenwich. It's 4 for 130 Australia.
Brilliant bit of fielding there from the young man, young Holder.
Holder substituting for Gordon Greenwich, fielding in Greenwich's favourite position. Pulls off a very fine save. Just a half-hearted shout, that'll be leg byes, or a leg bye.
.151 wickets to his name, averaging just under 25 runs per wicket. 5 wickets in an innings 5 times, 10 wickets in a match once. 6 for 62 against India in his hometown, Kingston. 88-89 his best performance. Replacing at the northern end Malcolm Marshall, who had figures of 5 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for 4.
Bridgetown again getting a bit of a workout down the leg side. Mark Taylor not quite sure where that one went. Really needed a bit of panel beating on the helmet there as well.
Certainly didn't need the bat for this ball. Very good bounce indeed.
Kept the eye pretty closely on the ball there. Never any real danger. Curtly Ambrose also just letting them know that a few short pitch ones are around the place.
He certainly was looking good in the first innings. Greggy has been struggling a bit on this tour, a bit unfortunate in Guyana. When things aren't going well, they continue not to go well. But he was looking good in the first innings. I presume he'll just think of trying to get back into that form in this second innings and play a very good knock.
Well, not probably the most conclusive shot that he's played, but it breaks up the monotony of 2 previous maiden overs. Australia now 4 for 136. Courtney Walsh takes up the bowling. I'm a little bit disappointed that the comments from some of our cameramen couldn't go to air during that last over. You thought my comments were bad enough. Deke Rose came up the fact that there's been some pretty tacky commentary going on. There's Deke Rose, hiding behind his camera. Very shy is our Deke. See, it's very mild outfit today, Deke. I noticed the braiding has disappeared from the hair as well, but not the ponytail. Just a little bit of movement there again for Courtney Walsh. Just cutting back into the left-hander, but missing leg stump.
Possibly just pitching outside the leg stump there as well. Not in any danger, Mark Taylor. He has been batting quite well. 6 boundaries so far for Mark Taylor. Very good extra cover drive there. Couple behind square.
Mark Taylor able to tuck that one away. No boundaries to add to his wagon wheel, but just a single.
I'm sure he'll be hoping to put a few more spokes in that wheel. Australia certainly need him to be there for a long time today. And certainly a few more boundaries wouldn't go amiss.
Quite dull and overcast here at the moment. Dean Jones quite happy to pick up the singles, just keep mixing the strike up. Quite heavy cloud cover, as you can see the dark cloud to the right of the picture. Cloud just masking the sun for the moment. The ground's in shade. No problems with a ground like this. There's very good side screens at either end of the ground, and despite the fact that the sun's not shining, it's still quite a good seeing ground. Mark Taylor was having a close look before. Just trying to work out where the cracks on the pitch were, but no problems for Australia at the moment. 4 for 138.
15 to Jones. The man out this morning, Hughes, for 3. Around the wicket from Courtney Walsh to the left-hander, Mark Taylor. When a team is in this situation, that's the one the Australians are in, don't mind any assistance, whether it comes from the weather or from batsmen who can stick around for longer than the opposition want. Beautifully bowled.
Yes, this is an excellent delivery here from Courtney Walsh. A leg cutter, just leaving Mark Taylor. Beautiful ball, just failed to get his edge, and Walsh is bowling quite well here at the moment. He's got the wind, bowling against the wind around the wicket, and just trying to get the ball into that rough area just outside the left-hander's off stump. And seems to be getting quite a bit of pace and bounce.
Only the pace bowlers used so far this morning, and the 1 wicket has gone down, that of Merv Hughes. Oh, that's well bowled too. That one came back from outside off stump. He's had the 2 that have pitched and gone away from Mark Taylor, and that was a beautifully bowled, well, it was a leg cutter, an off cutter to Taylor.
Yes, that's good thinking, because he's just getting the ball to leave Mark Taylor, and he got the one to cut back, and he's very late onto it. All the players, West Indian players, jumping, hoping that probably that got through his defense. But Mark Taylor's batting very well.
That could be a very dangerous, it's not a shot, very dangerous non-shot. with the rough stuff there, and Walsh cutting the ball around. That one came back not quite as sharply as the one earlier in the over, but you must be very careful not playing any stroke at all because of the way the LBW law is framed.
Very awkward looking short ball there from Walsh. Gathering a bit of height, put Mark Teal in a bit of problems, but he played it very well, kept it down. I think he looks quite good at the moment. Mark Teal looks very obdurate there. He's taking everything that is thrown at him by the West Indians.
Four for 151. .55 Taylor, 14 Jones. Jones has strike now to Patterson. Each of these bowlers, Walsh and Patterson, has managed to go past the outside edge in the last 2 overs with absolutely cracking deliveries. Back in the dressing room, they'll be looking at the clock. Always seems to go slower, the hand on the clock, when it's pushing its way back up to the hour. But the players in the dressing room will be keeping one eye on that. If they can get through to lunchtime with this pair still together, then the chance of a draw is increased. Jones will get at least 2 there, may even pick up 4. Yes, Courtney Walsh can't get around. Nice stroke from Dean Jones.
Yes, this is one that strays down the leg side, and Dean Jones just plays it off his legs nicely, and he's a very good onside player. And Courtney Walsh trying to get there, but the ball beats him to the boundary. The point about it is that with 7 men on the offside, I mean, they can't afford to stray. So I think that his line has got to be on or about the off stump.
That'll go for 4. But the runs don't matter to the West Indies. I would even bring up the man from deep fine leg, Courtney Walsh, the one who was down there, had to chase the stroke off the pads from Dean Jones, and put him in at leg slip. Could employ everyone in the catching positions. That's the man down there, and I would bring him up to a leg slip position there. He's not needed down there, probably not going to cut it off anyway. The ground's so small and so fast. It's 4 for 161, 55 for Mark Taylor, 22 for Dean Jones now. Courtney Walsh is still going to come around the wicket, and the sign rider is back with us. Same guy, same beard. Geoffrey Duchamp pulling off a good save there. 4 for 161. Ian Chappell's in the commentary box now, and with him is Greg Chappell.
Thanks, Richie. Mark Taylor putting in a long stint here to try and save this test match for his team. Mark Taylor has already been there for 313 minutes. Just to give you an indication, Gordon Greenidge batted for 677 minutes for his 226. Obviously a different type of role for Gordon Greenidge. He was trying to score runs. That was his prime task. Mark Taylor's his survival. Dean Jones on strike, 2 slips, Gully, Richie Richardson at silly mid-off, and Gus Logie at silly mid-on.
Very watchful Dean Jones. Walsh getting reasonable bounce. He's worked up quite good pace here this morning. This one just hurrying in onto Dean Jones from the wicket. Just missing leg stump and over leg stump as well, so there was no chance of an LBW appeal, but a few runs could have been scored if he could have caught up with it. Well left there, Dean Jones withdrawing the bat at the last minute. Aware of the fact that he was out padding up in the first innings, and aware also of the fact that Courtney Walsh brings the ball back in quite sharply from off stump, so he's looking to play as much as possible.
No one at third man.
Just a bit wide and short. Dean Jones also looking to attack where he can. 4 for 166.
Mark Taylor is on 56, Dean Jones 26. These two came together with the score at 122. They've added 44. So Dean Jones doing the bulk of the scoring in this partnership. Wasn't all that short, that one from Patrick Patterson.
Just a few cracks in the wicket. May well be that this one has hit one of those, because it really did bounce rather awkwardly. Mark Taylor was opened up by the line that it was bowled, pitched outside leg stump, then started to attack him from that line, across to his left shoulder, so it really squared him on. And he fended it away. Fortunately for him, went into the open spaces.
It's a pretty good follow-up from Patrick Patterson. After a good lifting delivery, another one right on the stumps.
Quite a lot fuller. Mark Taylor just playing from the crease, not really forward, not really back. Very watchful. Quite a humid day here in Bridgetown. Bright sunshine at the moment. We've had a lot of cloud cover during the morning. There have been periods where the cloud cover has blotted out the sun, but it's still very humid. For the fast bowlers and for the batsmen, those helmets get quite warm.
Malcolm Marshall from mid-on.
Taylor not quite timing that ball. One of the problems when you're intent on survival, you're tending to look to defend first and attack as the second resort. The ball was pitched up just outside leg stump. Tried to whip it away, but didn't quite get the timing he would have liked.
picks the gap on this occasion, beats Rowan Holder in the gully.
Patrick Patterson called out catch. The ball went in the air for quite a distance. It was pitched well up and wide of off stump. Taylor started to come forward. You'll notice from the footwork here, Mark Taylor starts to come forward, realises the ball's quite well pitched up, just sways back onto the back foot really and opens the blade of the bat. That's why the ball went in the air, but good selection of placement. All he finished up with was 4 runs. 50 partnership there. It's come up in 107 balls. It's the 50 partnership between Dean Jones and Mark Taylor. Taylor, as Ian said, has been there for over 300 minutes. 107 balls it took the two to bring up their 50 partnership, so it's been a very important partnership for Australia. Time being the most important element. But runs are still important, as much for their psychological well-being as anything else. They don't like to get bogged down for too long. Runs they've got plenty of. The West Indies have got plenty of to play with, so they're not worried either. Time being the first thing.
No ball screamed out there by umpire Lloyd Barker.
Mark Taylor has just brought up his highest score against the West Indies. 63 he is at the moment. 61 was his previous best. That was in the 3rd Test match. He'll be keen to continue on with that, as he's never scored a century against the West Indies. This would be a good time as any to do it.
It's 4 for 173.
On that occasion, the roles were reversed in that England had a 1-0 lead in the series. This time the leaders in the series are the West Indies. They lead by 1-0 with 1 to go.
Well, Cooper has done it. A spin back off the bat, and that second new ball now looms as a daunting prospect. So far as the Australians are concerned, Hooper has made the breakthrough straight after lunch in the first over.
Well, it really hasn't been Dean Jones's tour. He's been out in so many unusual ways, and this is another one. You'll see that happening once a series, perhaps. Of course, there was a run out in Guyana, and he's had his problems. 5 for 190.
Mark Ward's the new batsman. He replaces Dean Jones, who played on. He played the ball down in front of him. I'm sure it landed in front of the batting crease and then just spun back. And clunk against the leg stump.
Well, perhaps if he'd kept his bat rigid rather than giving with the ball, he would have prevented it going back on his stumps. But he let the bat run back between his legs.
And Malcolm Marshall is the new bowler, still with the old ball.
Here's the defensive shot, and once he makes contact, he then pulls the bat backwards, and that allows the ball to go backwards and into the stumps.
And that would have produced a sinking feeling in and about the Australian dressing room, I can tell you. because Dean Jones had been playing pretty well.
Second time he's gone to Hooper in the series. Was caught and bowled in the first test up in Jamaica.
That's beaten the man at backward point or deep gully. Just get 2 for Mark Taylor. .76 overs gone. In fact, Richards bowled himself and Hooper just before lunch. And at lunch it was 75 overs. It looked very much at that stage as if Richards was in fact hurrying through the overs to have the new ball available immediately after lunch. But he went with Hooper. He's got the bonus. The wicket of Jones. And he has a new batsman in, Mark Waugh, if he intends to take the new ball. It's 5 for 192.
Waiting off the mirror at the entrance to the Southland stand. Thank you.
Mark Waugh will be taking strike to Carl Huber. There's no deep backward square for the off-spinner. There's no rough outside the off-stump for the right-hander. It's all outside the left-hander's off-stump at that far end, or at both ends.
So here is Hooper and Mark Waugh, the batsman, with Steve Waugh and Ian Healy remaining of the recognised Australian batsman.
In fact, there has been a man put back there on the boundary now. Patrick Patterson went back from the orthodox square leg position out onto the boundary. Mark Waugh picks up 2.
Well, uncertainty there in that forward defensive shot. There was a call of catch it.
It actually went from leg to off. It's 5 for 194.
So Marshall from the southern end to go around the wicket to the left-handed Taylor. Taylor has been there from the very start of this Australian innings. He's Had a couple of chances, one when he was 5, down to Richardson at third slip, and then again this morning, very early on when he was 46, also to Richardson at silly mid-off. Mark Waugh at the start of what most people consider will be an outstanding test career. Made his test debut against England in the Ashes series which preceded this one. Had a pretty good series here, his first for Australia overseas. Impressed everyone in the West Indies, and a very good average there from just 6 test matches. He's got a long way to go, a lot to learn in this game. Certainly he looks a really class batsman.
It might still be the old ball, but Malcolm Marshall's got it moving around in the air out there.
But I have to be careful how he's padding out. We've seen already 2 Australian batsmen dismissed in this match, padding away, albeit one was with a no ball. Dean Jones was leg before in the first innings to Marshall. This is his first series, I say, for Australia, outside of Australia, his first against the West Indies as well. And he's not done badly at all. Really didn't have much of a chance in the first innings. He ran out of partners, was left 20 not out. Ground at the present time in shadow, but the cloud overhead is not that threatening. Quite often this time of the day, with the heat coming up, you'll find a cloud will just hover over the ground, perhaps a little bit of rain. But even though it's overcast, that cloud is high. 5 for 195.
A lot of rubbish outside Mark Taylor's off stump there. The marks made by the bowlers in their follow through. Always difficult for left-handers. Right-handers complain bitterly if they ever get any stuff outside the off stump. But the left-handers have it all the time because there's a preponderance of right-arm bowlers. A quicker ball from Carl Hooper, the in-swinger, 5 for 196.
So Marshall will continue. He decides now that he'll go over the wicket. And description between the difference between over and round. He's delivering with his bowling hand closest to the stumps.
He's a great user of the bowling crease, Malcolm Marshall. He was in over the stumps with that one, but he's bowled a couple already after lunch from wide out on the bowling crease.
Well, he finally got it. They were thinking of a second, but it was going to be a risk even if he'd fumbled a bit more.
Always a danger on these small grounds, going for a second or a third run in a situation like that. Maybe 3 parts of the way to the boundary, but that's not very far. Malcolm Marsh was the man who claimed the wicket earlier today. That was Merv Hughes, caught by Geoffrey Dujon. That's how it happened. He was wide on the return crease there, wide on the bowling crease. Just gave it a little assist. And Merv had to walk away, went his way back to the pavilion. His broom's bass bristling and very unhappy. That was the dismissal, and then Dean Jones straight after lunch.
In fact, Dean Jones, being bowled by Hooper. Hooper has only had 2 wickets for the series so far, and both have been Jones. Came off a short run, Malcolm Marshall, and ball really moving far too much for there to be any appeal on the ground. There was off the ground. Spectators square on, of course, can't see the line of the ball, and whenever it crashes into the pad, tend to scream their own appeals. Marshall has now pushed a man back to backward square leg. Richardson gone back to that position.
Surprised they didn't start off with that, because Mark Waugh has a habit of lofting the ball behind square. That's well bowled. 5 for 197. Well, Taylor had to play at it. That's part of that rubbish I was talking about, the footmarks there made by the bowlers in their follow through, and it is definitely inside the danger area. I can't imagine how the umpires have allowed it to be done. There is a mark 1 foot either side of the middle stump at each end, and those marks are joined. Now the mark is just where Geoffrey Dujon's gloves are. Taylor will take 2 there. And it's 5 for 199.
little advice from some members of the crowd here to Richards to take the new ball. I think most people felt that he might have taken it after lunch, but he's proved his point here by getting a wicket from Hooper.
Well, it sounded like an inside edge. It was very well bowled.
Yes, in fact, it was, and umpire Barker giving the not out decision. Ball cut back very sharply, in fact. But while there was disappointment from the West Indians, there was no anger at the umpire's decision. I think they all realized what had happened. War on the back foot.
.200 up for Australia. They're not going to win this match. It's a question of whether or not they can survive. They have 5 wickets in hand. Of those 5 wickets, 2 are McDermott and Reed, neither of whom have shown very much confidence with the bat so far. The other 3 are Mark Waugh-Taylor and Ian Healy.
So it's 5 for 200.
The right-hander's taking strike now. He won't have as much trouble with the foot marks. It's 5 for 200.
Well, we saw it with Dean Jones, and that was awfully close to being another bowl down. Ball just trickling back slowly enough to allow Waugh to get his bat back to haul it out of the stumps.
Beautiful top spinner. This is the one that almost rolled back onto the stumps. Was beautifully bowled. Lovely change of pace, and if anything, it went from leg to off. So Carl Hooper has struck twice after lunch. First of all, the slower ball to allow Mark Waugh to drive, and then the quicker top spinner, which might have run a little bit off the seam, but it was a lovely piece of bowling.
Absolutely and comprehensively beaten. And Hooper picks up his second wicket, and spin for a change is doing it for the West Indies. It's now 6 for 200.
Loosening exercises. It's Malcolm Marshall to Mark Taylor. Oh, must be gone. Kept low. Almost ran along the ground. And Marshall has chipped in now. He took the wicket of Hughes earlier. Now he has Mark Taylor.
Well, there's not very much a batsman can do about a ball like this. Had absolutely no chance whatever. He could have walked for that one. And Mark Taylor's long and important vigil has ended. The West Indies have taken 3 wickets since lunch, and Ian Healy now comes in to join Steve Waugh, neither of whom has faced the ball yet. It's now 7 for 200.
Ian Healy is the new batsman. Steve Waugh is the non-striker. Healy is about to face Marshall. That was a brute of a ball that dismissed Mark Taylor. Nothing you can do about that at all. Ball bowled at that pace, a bit like the one that bowled Alan Border in the first innings.
Well, that's a batsman who has been in there for the better part of 6 hours, something in that region, and even he could do nothing about it. The West Indies absolutely jubilant. They've had to wait some time for the kind of breakthrough which has followed since lunch, and they now scent a quick victory. But it's Carl Hooper who is the one who made the breakthrough after lunch with his off spin. And here's that beauty which bowled Mark Waugh all over the shop, playing down the wrong line, playing late. Really superb bit of bowling by Carl Hooper. A lot of people feel that Carl Hooper owes the West Indies a lot, not only as far as runs are concerned, but also as far as wickets are concerned. He does pretty well here. He's a recognised bowler of off-spin in the regional Red Stripe Cup competition. He gets quite a few wickets in that. Perhaps he doesn't take it seriously in the test matches, but he's bowled well here after lunch, and he was the one who made the breakthroughs by bowling Jones and then bowling Mark Waugh.
Healy is gone. Marshall has claimed another one. And this is going to be a very quick end. That one didn't get up all that much either. Looked as though it cut back on Healy.
And he was right in front. Malcolm Marshall strikes again. Past his 350 wickets already, and now he gets another one at 8 for 200. So McDermott, the new batsman, and his batting record this series hasn't encouraged any sort of optimism in the Australian camp. I'm sure that this match is going to be extended very much further. We've had 3 wickets in the space of 5 balls, and Marshall well, even the public address announcer has become so excited that he announced that Malcolm Marshall was on a hat-trick. Well, he certainly wasn't. Ian Healy had played a couple of deliveries.
It's 8 for 200.
So it will be Carl Hooper to continue. Hooper, the one who has made the initial breakthrough. Australia having lost 4 wickets after lunch in quick succession. Steve Waugh now to take his first ball. And as he does so, we change commentators. It'll be Greg Chappell, and with him, Clive Lloyd.
Thank you, Tony. It's all happening in rather a rush here. Steve Waugh, the 7th specialist batsman in the team, now finds himself left with the tail. And a reduced tail it is. Merv Hughes, having batted as the night watchman, lost his wicket earlier in the day to Malcolm Marshall. So Steve Waugh is on naught. He's been joined by Craig McDermott, who is also yet to score. It would now seem to be inevitable, Clive, that the West Indies will march to a victory here this afternoon.
Yes, they look like they're well on their way to victory here. Carl Hooper and Malcolm Marshall doing the damage. Malcolm Marshall, 3 wickets. And Carl Hooper with 2.
Carl Hooper has shown us here this afternoon, Clive, that he's no mean off-spin bowler.
Yes, I think he's got a lot of talent as an off-spinner. He played a very integral part in the spinning department when they toured Pakistan the other day.
It's high in the air. Patrick Patterson not going to make the ground and is beaten by the spin in the end. The runs are of no consequence. Carl Hooper, I'm sure, would like to have seen Patrick Patterson make the ground, but if not well struck, at least well placed.
I think Patrick Patterson picked it up fairly late, but not so sure he made a very valiant attempt.
That's the end of another eventful over. 8 for 203.
Somebody seems to be quite certain. It's all over, bar the shouting.
Sign writer is on duty again. Malcolm Marshall has really got the ball to move around today. He started off this morning in very humid conditions. Beat Merv Hughes with a number of well-placed outswingers early in the day. And again, we see him swinging the ball.
Malcolm Marshall, very hard worker, excellent professional. Reached a magnificent figure of 352 test wickets. Great feat, wonderful, very marvelous professional, and a great player for the West Indies.
Getting the ball to swing both ways, getting the outswinger to go more than the inswinger, but that variation is enough to keep the batsmen on their toes. Steve Waugh looking pretty good in defence there. He needs to spend some time in the middle today if he can. He won't be amused to find that he's only got Craig McDermott and Bruce Reid to help him out. There's plenty of gaps out there with a very attacking field at the moment. So there'll be 3 runs there to Steve Waugh, but again really shows the folly of 7 specialist batsmen. The 7th batsman generally gets caught with the tail. He really doesn't get much of a chance to make many runs. We've already mentioned a few times during this test match that Australia really does have an unbalanced side. Unfortunately, it will be too late by the time they get to Antigua, but it's to be hoped that a balanced team gets selected down there. We've seen this afternoon with Carl Hooper bowling. On the 4th and 5th days of a test match, a spin bowler can still be very handy. Craig McDermott still having his problems getting bat on ball. Some byes there, a bye there. Craig McDermott may well smile, but it certainly can't be from the joy he's feeling with the ball striking the bat.
And that one came back quite a lot, actually. Malcolm Marshall is moving this ball around and is 86 overs old, so the sun has gone in again. It's quite humid, slightly overcast, and Malcolm Marshall getting the ball just to go both ways, really.
Oh, good movement again there from Malcolm Marshall. That's an excellent over. Australia 8 for 207.
This is a three-double stand. Three great Barbadian players represented the West Indies. Did very, very well. Weeks and Walcott, and the Frank Worrell Trophy, the Sir Frank Worrell Trophy, which is named after Frank Worrell. And when they had that marvelous series in 1961. And I'm told that the trophy's somewhere around, but I don't know where, but we're hoping that we'll be able to see it in Antigua.
What happened to the trophy, Clive?
Well, when I played my last Test series in Australia, it was given to the manager Wes Hall, and actually I don't know what has happened with it. We don't know what transpired after the tour was over.
Craig McDermott just steers it straight into the gully fieldsman's hands. Roland Holder rolls over and takes a very fine catch. The death knell now sounds for Australia.
Yes, this is a ball that was hit very short by Courtney Walsh and steered into the gully position by Craig McDermott. Score Australia 9 for 208.
Bruce Reid stands between Vivian Richards and success here at the Kensington Oval. 9 for 208 Australia, and this is how Bruce Reid was brought to the wicket.
This is just one that is steered at the gully position and beautiful diving catch here by Richie. Now it's a Roland Holder, the substitute fielder. He's taking his first Test catch.
And that's the story for Australia today, a very sad story. Courtney Walsh, just an attack of nerves there. He was the wicket taker. Craig McDermott was his first and only wicket so far in this inning. He was the first one out. Only wicket. Rolls over and takes a very fine catch. The death knell now sounds for Australia. And there it is. That's it. The West Indies have wrapped up the series. The Frank Worrell Trophy, no matter where it is, belongs to the West Indies.
Viv, that must be a particularly satisfying victory for you.
Very, very, because I think, as I've said, especially before the series has started, a lot of people had counted us out of the race, and for some reason we stuck to our task very well, which is important, and because of these reasons I'm very satisfied.
Gordon Greenidge had walked off the Kensington Oval, Barbados, probably for the last time in a Test match, even more than a hero. His 226 had rewritten the record books and ensured that history would record the West Indies as winners of the series. Amid the celebrations, though, a couple of really sour notes. The quality of the umpiring and Viv Richards' attack on the Australian coach, Bob Simpson. Viv actually should know better. When you're 2-0 ahead with only one Test to go, you let your deeds do the talking and just keep smiling. However, the Australian camp didn't help by having senior officials running around demanding an apology. Eventually they got one, but it was a Clayton's apology actually, rather than a real rum punch one. So with the bad